For 12 years, Tom Cruise has been a ghost to his daughter. He risks his life jumping off cliff for movies, but won't risk crossing the street to hug her. Today at 19, Suri finally hit back, not with words, but with a brutal decision. She officially dropped Cruise from her name. She is now Suri Noelle. It's a message loud and clear. I don't need you, but why? What dark secret made a daughter erase her own father? Is he a monster or a victim of his cult? Here is a heartbreaking truth. The golden cage. To understand why Suri Noelle had to destroy her past to build her future, we have to go back to the very beginning, to a time when she was the most famous baby on Earth. Suri was born on April 18, 2006, but this was not a normal birth. Her entry into the world was governed by the strict, bizarre rules of Scientology. Her mother, Katie Holmes, had to endure a silent birth. According to church doctrine, noise during childbirth causes trauma to the infant spirit. So, while doctors and handlers watched, Katie was expected to remain silent to the agony of labor. It was the first sign that Suri did not belong to her parents. She belonged to the organization. For the first few years, Suri's life looked like a fairy tale. She lived in mansions. She wore designer clothes before she could walk. She was carried everywhere by a father who looked at her with absolute adoration. Tom called her Kate's greatest production. He famously jumped on Oprah's couch declaring his love. But looking back now, we can see the bars on the golden cage. As a commenter recently noted, Scientology is a cult from way back. And Katie Holmes was beginning to realize that she wasn't raising a daughter. She was raising a future recruit. The house was filled with assistants, security guards, and handlers from the church. They weren't just there to help. They were there to monitor. Katie noticed that her influence was shrinking. Decisions about Suri's diet, her education, and even her medical care were being steered by Scientology principles, not motherly intuition. There were whispers of sending Suri to a special school, one designed to indoctrinate children into the church's rigid hierarchy from a young age. Katie looked at her daughter, playing innocently in the garden, and realized she was standing on the edge of a precipice. If she stayed, Suri would eventually be swallowed by the system. If she left, she would be declaring war on one of the most powerful organizations in Hollywood. But as any mother knows, when your child's soul is at stake, fear is not an option. The lesson of Nicole Kidman. Why was Katie Holmes so terrified? Because she had seen the ghost of Tom Cruise's past. She knew exactly what happened to the women who didn't obey. She looked at Nicole Kidman. Before Katie, Tom was married to Nicole. They adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor. When Tom and Nicole divorced in 2001, Nicole left the church. And what happened to the children? They stayed with Tom. They were raised in the church. And heartbreakingly, they were turned against their own mother. Scientology is a term for people who leave or criticize the church, suppressive person, or SP. If you are an SP, you are considered dangerous. The church mandates a policy called disconnection. This means members must cut all ties with the SP, even if that person is your mother, your father, or your child. It is a psychological weapon designed to keep members in line. Katie Holmes watched from the sidelines as Bella and Connor Cruise stopped calling Nicole mom. She heard the stories of Nicole being banned from her children's weddings. She saw the pain in Nicole's eyes, masked by Hollywood smiles. Katie realized that this was her future. If she waited until Suri was older, until Suri had been audited and indoctrinated, Suri might choose the church over her mother. She would lose her daughter forever, just like Nicole did. A top comment on our channel perfectly sums up the tragedy. He chose his cult over his daughter. How sad is that? But Katie refused to let that happen. She knew that to save Suri, she couldn't just ask for a divorce. She had to execute a tactical extraction. She had to steal her daughter back. The Great Escape. June 2012. The month Katie Holmes became a hero. While Tom Cruise was in Iceland filming the sci-fi movie Oblivion, Katie initiated a plan she had been secretly building for weeks. She knew her phone calls might be monitored. She knew her emails could be read. So she used burner phones, disposable cell phones, to communicate with lawyers in 3 different states. She hired a top-tier legal team in New York City, specifically because New York courts generally favor stability for the child and dislike joint custody arrangements that involve erratic travel. She fired her staff, drivers, bodyguards, assistants, anyone she suspected of being loyal to Tom or the church. She was dismantling the surveillance network around her, one piece at a time. Then she dropped the bomb. She filed for divorce and sole custody of Suri, while Tom was thousands of miles away on a film set. Tom was reportedly blindsided. He didn't think she had the courage to leave. He was used to being the one in control. He was the biggest star in the world. He was the face of Scientology. People didn't leave him. He dismissed them. But Katie had one advantage: the element of surprise and the ferocity of a mother protecting her cub. The media went into a frenzy. There were reports of mysterious cars following Katie in New York. There were rumors of abduction teams. It sounds like a paranoid thriller, but for Katie, the threat felt real. She settled the divorce in just 11 days, a record for Hollywood. Why so fast? Many believe Tom settled quickly to avoid a public trial. He didn't want Katie testifying about the inner workings of Scientology. He didn't want the world to know what disconnection really meant. Katie walked away with full custody. She didn't want his money. She had signed a prenup that limited her payout. She wanted Suri. As one viewer, Catherine, wrote, "I'm glad she took her daughter away from that cult. In my opinion, she saved her life." Catherine is right. By taking Suri to New York, Katie broke the cycle. She pulled Suri out of the golden cage before the door could be locked. But freedom came with a heavy price. The price was a father. The policy of disconnection. After the divorce, the world waited. We expected Tom to fight for visitation. We expected to see him flying to New York every other weekend to take Suri for ice cream or to the park. He has a private jet. He has unlimited resources. Distance should not be an issue. But after 2013, the photos stopped. The visits stopped. The phone call stopped. Suri Cruise became the girl with the invisible father. Tom's team claimed it was his busy schedule. They said he was filming Mission Impossible, Top Gun, and saving the movie industry. But let's be honest. Even the busiest CEOs in the world see their children. Even soldiers at war find a way to call home. The silence points to one thing: the policy of disconnection. Since Katie Holmes divorced him to protect Suri from Scientology, Katie was labeled a suppressive person. And because Suri was living with Katie, she was now potential trouble source in the eyes of the church. According to former members like Leah Remini, the rules are absolute. You cannot be spiritually pure if you are connected to an SP. Tom Cruise had to make a choice on one side: his career, his fame, his eternal spiritual status, and the organization that treats him like a god. On the other side, his 6-year-old daughter. He chose the organization. One commenter, Peter, wrote, "Scientology is evil multiplied by infinity and then some." It is hard to argue with that when you look at the result. Imagine the confusion of a child. Suri went from being the center of her father's universe to being a ghost to him. She didn't die. She didn't move to Mars. She was right there in New York, waiting. But her father's belief system told him that the spirit inside that little girl was now corrupted by her mother. To him, the Suri he loved was gone, even though she was breathing and growing just a few states away. This is the true horror of cult dynamics. It overrides biological love with ideological loyalty. Tom Cruise convinced himself that by cutting her off, he was doing the righteous thing. But for Suri, it just felt like abandonment. Growing up in the shadow. The years between 2013 and 2024 were the silent years. While Tom was walking red carpets and jumping out of airplanes, Suri was navigating the brutal reality of growing up fatherless in the public eye. Every time she went to a grocery store, she saw his face on magazine covers. Every time she turned on the TV, there he was, smiling that billion-dollar smile. He was everywhere, yet he was nowhere. It is a unique kind of torture. Most children who lose a parent can grieve and move on. But Suri had to watch her dead father living his best life for the whole world to see. She had to read headlines speculating about why he didn't love her. She had to hear rumors that he was planning a rescue mission. That never happened. But through it all, Katie Holmes was a fortress. Commenter Cheryl wrote, God bless Katie for keeping her daughter safe. Prayers for both of them. Katie did something remarkable. She didn't trash Tom in the press. She didn't use Suri as a pawn. She simply filled the void. She became both mother and father. She took Suri to school. She taught her about art. She rode the subway with her. She raised Suri not as a celebrity brat, but as a normal New York kid. Suri learned to be independent. She learned that family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up. And Tom didn't show up. Not for the elementary school plays. Not for the middle school graduations. Not for the sweet 16ths. Every milestone passed in silence. As Suri entered her teenage years, the hope began to fade. The little girl who used to cry for her daddy began to realize that the man on the movie poster was just a character. The real man had made his choice. And as she approached her 18th birthday, Suri began to make a choice of her own. The financial cutoff. April 18th, 2024. Suri's 18th birthday. In the eyes of the law, she was now an adult. For Tom Cruise, this date was significant for one reason: child support. According to the divorce settlement, Tom was required to pay $400,000 a year for Suri's care until she turned 18. He paid the money. To his credit, he never missed a payment. He covered her medical bills, her education, her insurance. But writing a check is the easiest part of fatherhood for a man worth $600 million. Money is not presence. Money is not love. When the clock struck midnight on her 18th birthday, the financial obligation ended. Tom was no longer legally tethered to her. Many insiders wondered, would this be the moment? Now that she is an adult, now that Katie's custody rules are over, would Tom reach out? Would he try to reconnect with the woman his daughter had become? The answer was a deafening silence. Instead, rumors swirled that Tom felt relieved the payments were over. For Suri, this must have been the final straw. She realized that to him, she was a contractual obligation, a line item in a legal document. She wasn't waiting for his money. She and Katie have enough. She was waiting for a sign of humanity. When it didn't come, she realized that holding on to the name Cruise was holding on to a ghost. Why carry the name of a man who treats you like a stranger? Why let the world define you by the father who abandoned you? She looked at her mother, Katie, the woman who had sacrificed her career, her privacy, and her youth to protect her, and she made a decision that would shock Hollywood. Suri Noelle. In June 2024, at her high school graduation ceremony, the pamphlet listed the graduating students. There in black and white was the truth. Suri Noelle. She had dropped Cruise. She had taken her mother's middle name. It was a subtle change, but it hit with the force of an earthquake. By changing her name, she was publicly declaring her allegiance. She was honoring the parent who stayed and erasing the parent who left. Linda, a viewer, commented, "Scientology and its policy of disconnection is horrible." Suri's name change was her answer to that policy. If the church says she doesn't exist to her father, then her father doesn't exist to her. She is reclaiming her identity. She is no longer Tom Cruise's estranged daughter. She is Suri Noelle, a fashion student at Carnegie Mellon University. She is living in dorms. She has a roommate. She is making her own clothes. She looks happy. Recent photos show a young woman who is light, free, and smiling. She doesn't have the heavy, haunted look of a child trapped in a cult. She has the look of a survivor. Tom Cruise is currently preparing to shoot a movie in outer space. He wants to be the first civilian to do a spacewalk. It is the ultimate irony. He will travel 250 miles above the Earth. He will cross the vacuum of space. But he cannot cross the emotional distance to Pittsburgh to visit his daughter. He is conquering the universe, but he lost his home. The verdict. As we look at the parallel lives of Tom Cruise and Suri Noelle, the tragedy is undeniable. Tom is aging. Despite his stunts and his surgery, time is catching up with him. One day, the cameras will stop rolling. The applause will fade. The Scientologists who surround him will find a new face for their organization. And he will be an old man, alone in a mansion, with a legacy of great movies and broken families. He will have his awards. He will have his box office records. But he won't have Suri. He won't walk her down the aisle. He won't hold her children. He won't know the brilliant woman she has become. He traded that connection for an ideology. On the other hand, Suri has everything that matters. She has freedom. She has a mother who loves her unconditionally. She has a future that belongs to her. The name change wasn't an act of revenge. It was an act of healing. It was the final step in the escape plan that Katie Holmes started 12 years ago. Katie didn't just save Suri from a cult. She saved Suri from becoming a tragedy. As we watch Suri walk into her future, we can only hope that she never looks back, because the man she left behind made his choice a long time ago. He chose the sky. She chose the earth. And maybe, just maybe, she is the one who is truly flying. What do you think? Is Tom Cruise a victim of brainwashing, or is there simply no excuse for abandoning your child? Do you support Suri's decision to change her name? Let us know in the comments below. This is The Seventh Lens, uncovering the truths that Hollywood tries to hide. Thank you for watching.